Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and let's talk about Dungeons and Dragons, and let's talk about what dice to bring. All right. So we're in an incredibly unusual time right now. I think some of you remember the 1980s. In the 1980s, we wondered if we would be able to. There were months, there was times where we wondered, are we going to be able to continue to play Dungeons and Dragons? We didn't know, right? Now, I don't think there's any question on whether you're going to be able to play Dungeons and Dragons a year from now, but there's a massive question on how. Okay, so February 23rd, 2022, President Biden declared that unprovoked and unjustified attacks occurred. I 100% agree with him on that. And that changed the world for everything. And what I want to focus on this channel is how it changed the world for every dungeon master and every Dungeons and Dragons player. So right now, on Sunday, I play every Sunday, and I'm incredibly blessed. You know what? I'll tell you right now, I knew before that I was blessed to have the game I have, and I'm very, very aware, far more aware than ever, just how blessed I am to have the space that I have, to have the resources that I have. It's amazing, right? So let me explain my Sunday game right now. So on Sunday, I'm gonna have 4 or 5 players show up. They're gonna come into the house. We play in my dining room. I have a table that seats 6, but in the corner of the room there's a nice table, and on that table, in the corner room next to me, I have like 2 crates, and I'll take one down, put it on the floor, and I'll have the other crate there. And in that crate I actually pack those 2 crates every week, and they have the books we need, and the miniatures we need, and the hand drum maps that we need, the notebooks we need. I have charging stations if anybody's using a laptop, and my beautiful wife has, water bottles and Mountain Dew Diet Spark, and green tea, diet green tea, mango, and anybody in the house can get whatever they want, right? And my friend Mike will say, "Hey, Scott, can I use your habanero sauce?" And he'll bring egg rolls, right? Like, that he eats. Everybody brings their own food, and generally we don't do food, but I supply drinks, and before I thought it, I was like, oh, this is just, it's just a Dungeons and Dragons space. But the reality is now I realize, based on choices of one specific person in the world, we're in two-state Dungeons and Dragons world, right? So a year from now, everything I told you may still be in place, right? And I can get my miniatures, and and the 4 people I'm playing with, the 4 or 5 people that I'm playing with right now are there at the table. Or Dungeons and Dragons has run out of Go Box, right? It's run out of an 8 inch by 4 inch by 4 inch wooden box that sits in the bottom of my Go bag, right? And my Dungeons and Dragons supplies are 10 golf pencils, a pencil sharpener, 100 index cards, and 3 index cards that summarize, one on each index card, the PHB, the DMG, and the Monster Manual. And the rest of the Monster Manual and the PHB and the DMG just lives in my head and my heart, and I carry it the way shamans carried tales, 300 years ago, 300, 400, 500 years ago. So, all of this that's where we are right now. And it's just a fundamentally different world, right? So, I talked about this Go Box before, but I forgot. I actually said I forgot everything but the dice, and I think the reason why I forgot the dice is just hard for me to imagine that I was going to need to pick dice. So in this Go Box is very, that I'm going to need to that there's a distinct, right now I don't know if a year from now I'll be playing Dungeons and Dragons at my dining room table, or if I'll be playing Dungeons and Dragons with none of the players I have now, and running it out of this Go Box on the side of a mountain under a tarp with rain, coming down after I'd trekked 8 miles that day. I don't know, and you don't know either. You don't know what's going to happen with your game. And anybody who tells you that they know what's coming next, There's a 30 to 90 day window before we're even going to know. So that means that right now we have to get that go box ready, right? So, and part of that, and I was ready to get that go box, and when I talked to you about the go box the first time, I put in everything that I remembered, right, or everything that I could process mentally, and that was, you know, the golf pencils, the pencil sharpener, index card, but I didn't mention the dice, and I think subconsciously I forgot it because I couldn't even bring myself to think, okay, and actually, I have definitely owned 200 sets of dice in my life. But I recently checked and I own 60 sets of dice right now, right? And so right now I have to decide what dice go in that box. And I'm going to talk through my process, and I think it's going to match yours, right? So do I keep the crayon dice that came in the original red box that I recently got, right? That were bought. I don't even have my original crayon dice. I actually used crayon dice, you know, when I was like 12, 13, but I don't have that original set anymore. That thing is, you know, like way gone. I'm sure they're around, but they're not with me. But I recently got my brother bought me an original red box, and it had crayon dice, and that red box was bought at an estate sale because the guy who used them for like 38 years had passed, right? So like, you know, and that's a really special set to me, right? And it recently came in. Or do I, you know, how do I get there? Like, how do I decide, right? The next one is, so that's a really special set of dice. The other one is, do I take my Rick and Morty dice? They're one of the most gorgeous sets I have, one of the most unique sets I have, right? And that could be a really important set because, one, they're incredibly unique and incredibly rare, right? And they would be both a celebration of Dungeons and Dragons from the Rick and Morty Dungeons and Dragons starter box. They would be a celebration of Dungeons and Dragons, but they would also be a celebration of television, which, if we go into this second state, you might watch television once a year or never again, right? Like, because electricity will be like a rare luxury found only in found in, you know, places where they can still generate it, right, with a generator, or saved gasoline, right, because of the choices of one man, right? It's amazing how our choices matter, right, and how we can just blow on, you know, on a fire and wonder, how large does it get? Does it stay here in, you know, in this circled rock, or does it just sweep and become a bonfire of wrath? Thanks to one man, we're going to find out, right? Like, you know. So, it's truly. So, do I take my Rick and Morty set? Do I take the set, right, that helped me to defeat one? So, I've defeated lots of big bads, right? But Helen's Game, I specifically defeated essentially a modified, mutated Ankeg. It's probably the most difficult creature I've ever actually defeated in any of my games, right? Do I take the set that I remember defeating, you know, the big bad with? Because that has its own special memories, right? Do I take my Q Workshop set? My Q Workshop set is an oversized set that is by far the most best crafted dice I have, right? You know, I have junk dice that are like, that cost, you know, I spent $19.99 and literally got 12 sets, right? And actually, they're beautiful. I love them, and I use them all the time, right? But they're not balanced, right? Q Workshop stuff is carefully balanced. They've been made, you know, with meticulous care, and they're inscrawled with beautiful etchings around the numbers. You know, do I take my set that has the most craft and beauty and balance in them? Do I take those? Or do I take one of those sets that came? Do I take my $3 set, right? And you know why I would take my $3 set? Because it came with like 8 different colors, and one of those colors gets used a ton right now. It's very sharp yellow, right? Almost like a school bus yellow, and bold black numbers, and you can see the numbers from anywhere around the table, and it's always clear, right? So I take the ones that have personal meaning to me. Do I take the ones that have memory attached? Do I take the ones that are the best created, the best crafted? Do I take the ones, that are unique, like the Rick and Morty set, right? And that remind me of something even more than Dungeons and Dragons, something else that was lost, right? Or do I take that junky, super high visibility set, right? I'm going to tell you the answer. I know the answer. You know how I know the answer? Gary Gygax, right? So Gary Gygax lived a bold life. And I think, the more I think about his life, I think the greatest act he did was, he came in 1974, he worked like a mule until 1986. And in 1986, he had accomplished everything he needed to allow Dungeons & Dragons to roll forward with the momentum of a boulder rolling down a mountain, right? And he said, okay, my last act here, the last set of acts that I'm going to do in 1985 and 1986 is make sure that I shout to the sky with my actions, the future is female. TSR will have a female CEO who will carry it to its next stage, right? And he sacrificed. Gary Gygax didn't get kicked out. He never got fired from TSR. He quit, right? And I think the reason he quit was he had tried to be creative and corporate master at Dungeons & Dragons, and he failed, right? And he understood that he needed to finish what he had started and needed to put all the pieces into place. And putting in Lorraine Williams and making TSR the most progressive tabletop role-playing game in the world in 1986 and establishing it to be the most progressive tabletop role-playing game in the world in 2022, setting the pattern then was sacrificial. So I want to take my Rick and Morty set, or I want to take my Q Workshop set, or I want to take the Crayon set. But I need to take the one that is the most sacrificial. And the most sacrificial is leaving them all behind and taking the highest visibility dice so that the players are served best. So you need to make a decision now. Which of your dice do you leave behind for the flames? And which of your dice go in the box? One set. Make that decision this weekend. You have to. That's the world we've been given. That's the world that one man chose for us. All right? Hang in there.